Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf, Yud Zayin, and we continue with the procedure for the Sotah. So we top of the daf, Mishnah. We had just discussed the whole issue about the collecting of the dirt and putting it into the vessel, and different questions about the dirt, where's the dirt coming from, dirt being visible on the top of the vessel, on the top of the water, and so on. So she had brought her mincha, and now this is pretty much following the order of the psukim. She had brought her mincha, and now we're getting ready to make her drink. But first, we have to scrape the parchment into the water. So let's take a look. Top of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Ba'alo lichtov et Megillah. She came to write the Megillah, the Kohen. Thank you. Yes, was a good question. I think the pasuk is the Katav, right? At Halotus, I think it's going on the Kohen, but it's an interesting question whether that's Ma'akev. Megillah came to write the Megillah. From starting from where does he write? So actually, thank you, Michael, for opening up. Let me actually read to you the psukim. Okay, and here we go. It says like this. Let's actually, we might as well, here's a good point anyway, stop and talk about the order of the Mishnayot and the order of the Psukim. This is not so. So our parak started with discussing the mincha. Okay, so that was bringing the mincha, but not yet offering it up, because we didn't get described in our Mishnah yet either offering it up. Water. So the dirt is in the water. That's what we did in the previous Mishnah. So here it says making her stand and undoing her, disheveling her hair, which we actually had mentioned much earlier in the process. And then it says the following: the Kohen shall make her take an oath. If no man slept with you, you shall be cleansed from these bitter cursing waters. And you, and of course here the funny word is ki, because ki can mean if, but it also has a little bit of a suggestion of because. Right. There's a like again a little bit of that issue we've been talking about that presumption of guilt. So while it starts with if not, there's also the if here with a little bit of a heavier weighting on the if. If a man slept with you, if all that is true, then so your belly shall swell up. The Kohen writes these into the water, and then vishka et isha, and he makes her drink it. Okay, so he makes her orally take an oath, then he writes it down, then he scrapes it. Now here, interestingly, the Mishnah skipped over him orally making her take the oath. It jumps straight to the writing of the oath, which is interesting to note. So let's keep that in mind. So let's again see what the Mishnah says. He came to write the Megillah. So where does he write from? So it says, if a man did not sleep with you, so again, that's where it says, if a man did not sleep from you, you should be cleansed from this water. And you, if you did stray from your husband and a man slept with you, so he goes on and says that whole thing. If you don't, you'll be cleansed. If you do, etc. But he does not write the instructions in the pasuk. Meaning he only writes what's in the quote marks in the pasuk, not in the instructions. But he doesn't say, right? You can imagine in the pasukim there are quote marks. Yeah. If you did not sleep with a man, you will be cleansed. And if you did sleep with a man, but if a man did sleep with you, and then they're like end of quote marks and then a hyphen, or take the shua, and he shall say to the woman, and then back. So we're only going to do the stuff in the quote marks, okay? Okay, that's the next word that's in the quote works, right? So if a man did sleep with you, skip the instructions, then he gives the whole quote without the instructions he has in the middle. And he doesn't write at the end where the woman responds, amen, because that's not the oath. That's just her response. That's a very logical position.
What do you do with those people that say, like,
all right. Okay, hold off of that. We'll get to that. We can readdress that later. Rabbi Yossi Omer lo haya mafsik. No, he would even include the instructions. Maybe that's reflecting. It's true. It's really not part of the oath. It's just, and the Kohen shall make her take. But maybe he's got a problem. You don't want to cut something out from the middle of a pasuk. So you would just write straight. It's true. You would, you might stop before the Isha shall say amen, amen. But you don't cut out a piece in the middle. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he does not write the beginning, if a man did not sleep with you, you will be clean. And if a man did sleep with you, he doesn't write any of the conditions, and he doesn't write any of the possibility that he's innocent. He only writes the one line, which is the curse line, which is, that's
the second.
Right. Right. The only part is if you didn't sleep, you'll be innocent. And if you did, so that's A, the possibility of innocent, B, the framing that this oath is conditional on the fact that you did commit adultery. He skips all of that. He just writes the oath, the curse. Let your belly shall swell, etc. Okay. Rashi says kol atzmo is like an idiom. It means his whole point is only to, or like Rashi said, you should be very careful to do nothing but write only the phrase of the curse. Okay. He agrees she does not write amen. So we've been talking all along about how the Mishnayos have this, they haven't even talked about the process as being one to clarify her innocence. The process is all one of to punish her for her guilt. That's been the presumption of the Mishnayot. And that's certainly reflected in Rabbi Yehuda, who does not even have that the oath that's being written has the possibility that she's innocent. It only focuses on the one curse line, like at the end. What's missing also is, like Michael, is that it does not have the oral part of him reciting it orally and her saying amen, amen. It sort of just goes straight to the writing. Yes.
Well, I don't know that to me fits into presumption of guilt so much as like what is the goal in the, like, there might be all of that beforehand, the conditional, but like when we're talking about this,
the water only has,
like, then right. You only write the curse in there. You don't.
That could be. I mean, the water cursed water. What makes it cursed is that line of the curse.
Get there, then there's
right.
Right.
But it also makes though the function of the water. If you sort of want to think that the power of the verse is being put into the water, then the water itself is also conditional, because if she's innocent, right, then she's cleansed, and the water and she's v'nikasa v'nizra zara. So to not have those words, as it were, in the water is, I think, a little problematic. Yeah.
Is it rabbinical decision which verses are chosen then?
Well, we're going to see. No, the Gemara is going to say where their debate comes from in terms of how they read the psukim. So we're going to take a look. Okay, but again, quite fascinating that it does not have the oral recitation, the oral taking of the oath. It just goes straight to having her drink the water.
This machloket about what you write might reflect the different attitudes towards this ordeal. In other words, the latest opinion is the most magical. Right, and maybe you're just putting the curse in the water. When you write more of the conditionality, it makes it more rational in a way. It's more legal. It's not what you're emphasizing is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say, because either way, I don't see how it's much more. How it's rosy. I think it de-emphasizes the presumption of guilt. It makes it more of a question about trying to test whether she's innocent or not, rather than just to punish her for her guilt. But yeah, there's also clear. Yeah. Anyway, but I think we're saying close.
It has to be the same coin.
By the way, the next. I don't think so. By the way, the next Mishnah, or two Mishnah later on Yudchet, tomorrow's Mishnah is Amahi Omer Amen Amen. Okay, so it gets to her saying Amen Amen. But again, it's interesting that our Mishnayot don't discuss her actually taking the oath. Just go straight to the actual. Okay, so let's take a look at the Gemara. What are they arguing about in terms of which part is written in the water? Where do they get their debate based on the verse? So, the following verse. He shall write these curses in the scroll. The curses are alot mamash, the part that says that she's to be cursed. Okay. The extra hey is things that are written. Rabos klolos habos machmas brachot. The curses that come that are like by inference by the blessing. Well, there's not really a blessing, but it's hinakim mimei hamarim hama'ararim. If you're innocent, you will be cleansed. So that's an implicit curse. If you're not innocent, you won't be cleansed. You'll be punished. Because here's what he says. Here's what he says. Meaning, what would our presumption have been? Would our presumption without the Mishnah have been that he writes the beginning of what he says, right? If you're innocent, let you be cleansed, because the Torah says you shall write the curses, and being innocent is not a curse. Maybe that's somewhat of your point, Jenna, right? Therefore, how do you know to include the beginning of the oath, the conditional part of being innocent, since that's not a curse? And the Torah only says, write the curse and scrape
and it says
into the
it
water.
after it all.
Right. So therefore he says, okay, fine. The hey means even the stuff that's like the implicit curse. Being innocent is an implicit curse, because if you're be cleansed is implicit. If you're innocent, be cleansed is an implicit curse, that if you're guilty, you won't be cleansed. Okay, but the extra hey comes to include the first part of the statement, which is not itself a curse.
What do you think about the possibility that the word Megillah is Lashon Chachamim for Sefer, which is Lashon Nikra?
No, that isn't true. Wait a minute. There's Megillah is in the Tanakh, isn't it? It's not in the Tanakh.
In Esther.
Yeah, and it's also not in Yirmiyah when they write that
Yes,
Megillat. Yeah.
So it's an interesting switch.
Right, but I think a Sefer includes a much larger course. It's just a small scroll with a few sentences.
Right.
Yeah, but still calling
The Torah calls it a Sefer. Yeah. Or calls it get Sefer. But yes. Okay. Anyway.
You have to write this like on parchment.
Oh, well, that's next Mishnah. Okay, let's focus. So anyway, so the extra hay come to include that the first part of the oath, which is not itself a curse, but it's the flip side of the curse. Now these curses is limiting. Don't just write any curses, okay? Write curses. So Mishnah Torah, right? There's a whole section there where it says about, right, where it says, what is it, Kitisa or something? Not Kitisa, Kitavo, where it's all about like all the curses that will come to you. And there uses the phrase.
We just were talking.
Obviously, these curses, exactly. That's exactly the point. See, aren't you glad that it's shot? Okay, so it says, right. So there it says, right. So there it's even called an Allah, right? So it even uses the label of Allah. Okay, the double these or whatever, the double limit. Only the curse part, not the instructional part to the Kohen, and not the woman's response of Amen, Amen. So that's a very nice explanation. Okay, Rabbi Yossi with a kula kedam is, I agree with the entire way you darshan the pasuk, except to include the positive part at the beginning. That's not a curse. Okay, et l'rabos. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, he did. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. He did include the positive part. What did Rabbi Yossi said? You didn't skip over the part in the middle. You didn't skip over the instruction in the middle. Et l'rabos, the et ha'olot ha'eleh, l'rabot savot v'kabalot, to include the instruction to the Kohen. Oh, it looks like Rabbi Yossi actually, right, et ha'olot ha'eleh. So it looks like when Rabbi Yossi says, Lo mafsik, Michael, you should be very happy. It doesn't only mean he didn't skip over the part in the middle. I think I missaid this when I read the Mishnah. It seems like it's saying he would even end the end of the pasuk, V'amrahi shamein amein. Right. So he actually, exactly Michael's concern is like, you don't chop a pasuk in half. So he starts from the beginning. But I don't know. What the Gemara is saying his reason is S. Okay? So I completely agree with the way you've read it. Ha'alot, it means even the positive part in the beginning, and Eila just means don't do anything else. But what I don't agree is that you excluded the instructional part. I think the word S is coming to include the instructional part and include where the woman says Amen, Amen.
I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with telling you what to do. You know what I mean?
I understand. Rabbi Meir, what would Rabbi Meir say back? Esim lo darish. He's not impressed with the S. That doesn't come to include anything. Okay, so they both agree you start with the positive part of the curse, and the question is, do you cut out the instruction and the woman saying of Amen, Amen? For Rabbi Yehuda, now Rabbi Yehuda is the one that skips the entire beginning and just goes to the punchline at the end. So Kulu b'mi'ute darshi lahu. Every extra letter that you focused on a phrase, some of them you use to include, some to exclude. He uses everything to exclude, everything to be very narrow. Alot mamash. Alot is only the curse part. Okay, Ha said was including the beginning. No, the Hey is excluding. For him, it's exactly saying only the curses, not the stuff in the beginning, which isn't a curse, which is a blessing, or at least it's a non-curse. Okay, Eile these Mishnah Torah. Ha Eile Ha'ela includes even the instruction and the saying of Amen. So he basically agrees with the first approach that you cut out the instruction and the saying of Amen, but the ha'alot is coming to say not the blessing part at the beginning or the whatever, the non-curse part at the beginning, only the curse part. Rabbi Meir, who includes the hinaki, the be cleansed at the beginning. He says that's coming to include even more than just the curse part, the if you're innocent part. The hay of ha'ele dimutebe, that's coming to exclude, right? The ha'ele excludes the instructional. So is an extra hay inclusive or exclusive? Including or excluding. So the Gemara says, well, look, it depends context. Hey digabe diribuya. When it comes with a word that's including alot is coming to tell you the alot is what you do say. It's not coming to limit. It's going to say you say the alot. So an extra hey expands the alot. So ribuyahi, it expands not only the curses but even the implicit curses, the beginning of the statement. Hey d'gabe demiyuta, when it's hey by a word that's limiting, ela is the only these, nothing else. So the extra hey comes to reinforce the limit. Miyuta, it's coming to reinforce the limit, and it's coming to say not even the instructional part. Okay, so basically, what do we have? We have based on different sort of pick up whether how you read a hey, how you read an s. Either you're going to come basically say you do the whole thing, you don't cut out any part of the pasuk, which as Michael might be saying might reflect the general attitude of not chopping up psukim, or you might be saying you just cut out the instructional part because that's not actually in quote marks, or you might just say and you use the word of like ha'ele to cut out the instructional part and only the actual curse itself, or you might come to say that all the things ha'alot, ha'ele is being very, very specific, and it's only the curse part at the end. With all these cases, it's an issue we made yesterday about you sort of start with your conclusion and work backwards to connect it to the pasuk, or are you actually deriving it? Like, is this really hermeneutic differences here? Is this really a difference that one person always darshans S and the other person has different approaches to whether you see a hey in this context or that context?
Or on the etim, right?
Right, that is true. I mean, Nochem Yishkamzu and so on. But the question is like, is this like, did we start with a different hermeneutics, a different intuition in terms of what's going to be written, right? Like one says, like maybe like Michael said, you can't interrupt the pasuk. Another approach is, well, it's only the curse. The other approach is, well, maybe she's innocent. Maybe you have to have both components in there, right? So how much did you sort of start with an intuition about where, about what makes sense, and how much was it just a purely derived from a hermeneutics that they already had?
Yeah, but let's say you called it intuition. So you had a sense that there was it's stronger than just an intuition, that you're not allowed to truncate a puzzle.
Right.
Why would you need a hermeneutic?
You're right. Maybe you wouldn't if you had that. I mean, unless you felt that the pasuk overrode it. I mean, sometimes a pasuk overrode certain things. But you're right. And I shouldn't say by any of those it's an intuition. By maybe it's just a particular intuition is like a little not specific. Like maybe it's a particular philosophy about what's about what's going on here. What are the mechanics here? So, but the Gemara sort of attributes it all to these hermeneutics. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. 1 minute. Rabbi Meir normally does not say that from the negative you can infer the positive. By the way, Rabbi Meir wasn't mentioned in the Mishnah. He's just assumed to be the Tanakama. Okay, now, why is this relevant? Because Rabbi Meir, if you remember, said that the way we included the line in the beginning, if you didn't, you should be innocent. Why is it included? That's not a curse, because it's an implicit curse. Because if you did, then you should be punished and found guilty. Okay, but that's from the one statement you can infer the inverse. If you're innocent,
here's where you go.
Okay, you'll be cleansed. So that suggests if you shouldn't be cleansed, it says you cannot infer from one sentence to the next. Now, where does he say this? He says this by making conditions. Right? If you think about Moshe says to Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain, you need a Shnai Kaful. It says, about Im Yavru Chalutzim Lifnei. What is it? Bnei Yisrael, v'nochzu b'tochechem be'eretz Canaan. V'lo yavru, and if you don't pass, in front of them, then you shall not be, you shall not get here, you should not get Be'er Yarden, etc. You shall be, and so on. So therefore, it was a double t'nai. If you do this, you'll get it. If you don't do this, you won't get it. Why did you need this double t'nai? So do you, in general, by when you make conditions needed to be double. So yes, you generally need conditions to be double because you don't say Michlal Avatar Shomei Hein. Now, actually, for any of those who took prepositional logic in college, you will know that this is actually correct. That if you say if P then Q does not mean if not P then not Q, right? If it rains, we won't play ball doesn't mean if it doesn't rain, we will play ball. It just means that if it rains, we won't play ball. If it doesn't, we might not, who knows, right? All if P then Q means is that if not Q, then not P. If it rains, we don't play ball, means if we did play ball, it must be that it didn't rain, okay? So if you are innocent, if you have not committed adultery, you shall be innocent. Maybe if you did commit adultery, you'll also be cleansed. But who knows what happens if you did commit adultery? But if you didn't commit adultery, then for sure you'll be cleansed.
You kind of figure that out, though. Given everything else the Torah has been saying about it.
I understand. But that's a general principle that you cannot infer, if P then Q, you cannot assume if not P then not Q. Okay, so the question is whether does Rabbi Meir really say that all the time as like a way of parsing normal people statements, or does he just say that like in cases of like t'na'im and conditions and a formal requirement when you're making stipulations about whether something takes effect or not, you have to be 100% crystal clear and spell out both sides of it. Okay, so the Gemara here seems to feel that it's a general principle at Rabbi Meir. It's not limited to t'na'im, because here Rabbi Meir is saying that if you are doing the, if you did not commit adultery, you'll be innocent, is an implicit curse. It implicitly is a curse that if you did commit adultery, you'll be punished. Rabbi Meir doesn't believe that that's implicit in the statement. Okay, he does not. So it seems like it's not just a question about the formal requirement of Tanai. Here it is also a Tanai. I know it's a Tanai, so maybe it is. You don't have to
generalize about it.
I understand. Maybe it is. But it's also. But again, here the only question is it included in the concept of this is also a curse because it says ha'alot. So is this statement an implicit curse when it says if you didn't do it? Says, how could Rabbi Meir say it's an implicit curse? Rabbi Meir says you don't say michlalav atah shomei hein. So let's take a look what the Gemara says. Say the Rabbi Meir, it's an implicit curse. So how could you call this an implicit curse? So Amar Rabbi Tanchom hinaki ksiv. It says be cleansed. What does that mean? So Rashi says it's a little play on word, which is chinaki. Okay, so the pasuk says but you could just cut off the im of the pasuk and write if you purified yourself on your husband, you should be strangulated. Okay, so anyway, that makes it a little less implicit, and that's how come it's included under the rubric of a curse, because it has that double entendre going on there. Okay, but it doesn't say that at all. I understand. Okay, Rabbi Akiva made the following drasha. Now, each v'isha, man and woman, zachu, if they merit, shchina b'neihem. The divine name is between them, the yud and the hey, right? I'm sure nobody has ever heard this drasha before. Okay, lo zachu, if they do not merit, so and God's presence is not between them, so an eish ochaltan, then a fire will consume them. Okay, so and by the way, interesting Rashi. If you look at Rashi, zachu. If you look at Rashi, 3 lines right. You take at the end of the day, you're left with 8. Look at the Rashi 3 lines before it gets why. Zachu laleches b'derech yeshara, to go on the straight path. Shelo yehu no efilo he no effort. He should not be an adulterer, and she not an adulteress. Now, again, it's interesting because we're reintroducing the man as the possible adulterer and one who cheats on his wife. And also in this context, right? It's an interesting question, which halachically, again, a man only commits adultery not when he sleeps with another woman who's not his wife, but when he sleeps with a married woman. But there is definitely places where the Gemara seems to, Rashi, other places, seems to like ignore the technical legal definition and talk about in real world terms. Adultery is sleeping with another woman who's not your wife. And that seems to be the point here, right? What? It's he sleeps with a married woman? That's what he's saying? No, it sounds like if he cheats on his wife, right? If she cheats on him or he cheats on her. So again, there's something that we're not only sort of equating it and talking about the possibility of him, also sexual sin, but actually I think the implicit sense is even bracketing the imbalance from the legal definition. Whether he's cheating or she's cheating, either way, that's obviously tearing apart the marriage, and then Eisho Chaltan. Yes.
Reading of think that way?
About that if he cheats on her,
no, if it's not legally.
Yeah. So I have some cases where that does seem to be reflected. I mean, But I think you see it more. I don't know how explicit it's in the Gemara. I see it sometimes more through the commentary of Rashi or Tosfos, and they're coming from an Ashkenazi monogamist society. So it's an interesting question, like how much can you find black and white evidence in Chazal about that? But I don't think it's such a far read from this point, right? So it does sound like, and certainly the way Rashi is reading is if one of them cheats on the other is I think how Rashi is reading it. Yes.
You know what bothers me about this midrash?
Yeah.
So it's a play on Naki and Zach, right?
Right.
Okay. But Rabbi Akiva should have said if he's not Naki, then water will inundate. In other words, he's not going on. I don't think he's going on the pasuk. I don't think he's going on the. It's a drasha that must have been a different.
I think it's in the context of talking about Sotah, but I think it's like I don't think it's specifically about.
Silly, but like water has been. We brought that up.
An interesting point. Maybe the water is coming to put out the potential fire that's glare. No, but I could work it very well. I mean, if you actually think about it. Because here's the thing that I was thinking about, and maybe it ties into what you are. The Shechina Beinehem, the Shechina Beinehem, right? It's also. Well, okay, that's true too. Hashem is Eish Ochla, but I wasn't thinking about that. So we have a lot of good drushes here. But what I was thinking about was that it's all about God's name here, right? Erasing God's name, and because they didn't stop it sooner, God's name is going to be erased. We're about to put God's name down on the parchment. And they're coming to the Beis HaMikdash where God's presence is. So somehow the presence of God's name can resolve this problem, right? If they got so far that God wasn't sort of in their marriage yet, as it were, enough that the problem wasn't resolved ahead of time, they have to come here and try to bring God more directly in
to literally absorb it,
to get God to calm everything down, right? So they're in the Beis HaMikdash, they're dealing with God's name, etc. And maybe you're right. Like maybe if it turns into a water and the water douses the fire because she's innocent, then God's name is basically putting out the fire. That's where I would sort of see that here it's about so it's away, and ultimately God's name got erased, whatever, but consumed. But I think that here the problem is that it's all about trying to bring God to resolve something because God hasn't been enough part of the equation to begin with. So that's sort of, but maybe you're right. Maybe the point is that the water, of course, the funny thing is that if she's guilty, she doesn't get consumed by fire. She gets consumed by water if she's guilty, but the water could also douse the fire. Okay. So, all right. So, Amarava, the isha adifa midiish. The woman's fire is greater than the man's. Why? Hi, well, let's first read it. Hi, mitzaret, because the aleph shin of the woman, the ish is already right there. The letter's already together. The high lomitav, the good, God's name is already is between the aleph and the shin of the man. So what does that mean? Does that mean that a woman is? Does that mean a woman is? Meaning after we've done this nice little statement of parity, are we saying that the woman is though more likely to sin because she's got the Yetzer Hara stronger, the strong letter doesn't create as much natural equilibrium? Is that what we're saying? Or we're saying that if they sin, like somehow I don't know, it's more of more anger or more of enmity comes up around the woman. I mean, Rashi says with the isha from the ish, eshel isha kashem u'meheres le'echov li'pareya mishel ish. So does it mean that she's more likely to sin? Does it mean that when she sins, somehow punishment will be swifter? It'll have a bigger impact in the marriage. Remember when the Gemara says when the woman sins, it undermines more the household because she's off being with her adult. She's not but that's not what the rest of it. She's not raising the kids or making dinner, so it more directly hurts the household. So I don't know. Meaning, I would be inclined to think just because of Gemara's general bias, towards men as more spiritual sort of beings, as it were. That one way to read this, not necessarily a way that works with our sensibilities, but one way to read this is that the man who is more religiously oriented, and so on, so he's able to control his, to keep his fire more calm, so God's name is more in the middle and calms, separates the powerful forces, where the woman, maybe is not so much, and the powerful forces are more work needs to be to keep them under control, but maybe not, maybe different ways of reading it,
I'm just thinking about tomorrow. We'll see over Tisaref.
Yeah, well, that's true. Anyway, all right, so let's keep on going. It says like this. Okay. Amar name Amar Torah, Havi Afar Sotah. Why does it say bring ashes for the Sotah? So Zachsa Yotze Mimena Ben Kavram Avinu. If you marry She'll have a son like.
Do you read?
She'll have a child like Abraham. Okay, so that's v'niksav in Israel zara. She'll have a meritorious child. Lo zachsa tachzor la'afara. Go back to the dust. All right. Dosh Rav. B'schar shamar Avram Avinu avanuchi afar ve'efer. Zochu b'nei banav. Now we're doing afar and efer. The Beis mitzvot, Efer para, the ashes of Parduma, Afar Sotah, both of which we mentioned before. Okay, so the Gemara says, "Vayganami Afar Kisrei Hadam." How about that? That's also mitzvah with dust. Hasam Hechsher mitzvah, Ika Hanal Leka. There, it's just doing a mitzvah, but there's no benefit. Here, there's benefit. The ashes of Paraduma let you become tahor, and the dirt of the Sotah resolves, fighting between a husband and wife. So there, it's not just a mitzvah, but it's actually a mitzvah that has very concrete benefits. Darish Rabba, okay, we're behind. Darish Rabba, because Avram said, if from a string to a shoelace, I will take from any of the booty of Sodom, I won't take anything. I just want, whatever. Just give me back what my servants ate and so on. So because he refused expenses, exactly. So because he refused the booty, Zochaban of Lebeis mitzvot. They got two mitzvot. Zechut shel tcheles, the string of tcheles and the tzitzit. Ritzua shel tefillin, and the strap, like a shoe strap, especially if you think it's at a sandal strap, it's out of leather. That's why a shoe strap is leather, right? For tefillin. So the Gemara says, Ritzua shel tefillin. Well, let's see what the Gemara says. So again, we're not just talking about a mitzvah, but a mitzvah that there's some concrete, this worldly benefit to. So tefillah, because people see God via Yomi, they're fearful of you. And God's name called on you is the wearing of the tefillin. So that's a very concrete benefit. In what way is doing the mitzvah of tzitzis and tcheles, to what way does that give you some concrete this worldly benefit? To time, we turn to Brisa. Hi, Rabbi Meomer. Why? What makes from all the other colors? Because the tcheles is similar to the color of the ocean, and the ocean is similar to the color of the sky. And the sky is similar to the heavenly throne. They saw the God of Israel, and under his legs were like a sapphire construction. Like impurity. So the actual color of the sky is similar to the color of the divine throne. And again, also says that the sapphire is like the divine throne. So therefore, it inspires you, it connects you to God, it gives you a glimpse of a vision of God. So it's a type of a benefit you get other than just the idea, I did a mitzvah. There's something in which it actually does something to improve your life. Okay, so all these types of things. I mean, some of the way of improving your life is in a halachic world, like it makes you tahor. Okay, some of it, it makes none of these they make you wealthy. It makes you tahor, it resolves a fight between husband and wife. It makes people see that you're connected to God via umimeka. It makes you more connected to God. But these are very concrete things in that it does for you. Anyway, that's the merit. Now, is there some more deeper connection to Avraham? I don't know. Somebody could sort of suggest, I don't know if that's being suggested here at all, but Anochi Afar Ve'efer is, about the sense of being very humble, and very often, sometimes, fights come about, and people also, not only why the fights come about for many reasons, but often people aren't able to move towards reconciliation because they're standing on their pride, and nobody ever actually wants to give in or admit that they were wrong or move forward. So I think you could definitely see the sense of Afar and the Afar Sotah, somehow some sense of that somehow maybe sometimes it might be being a little bit more humble and not standing on your pride that could allow for a resolution. Of course, that's not what happened here. Here, actually, he was schlepping her, she was denying it, and it's some miraculous thing that creates the resolution. So I don't know if that type of a drasha works. By the what do you call it? By the case now, right? Avram basically says, you shouldn't say that you make me rich. Like God, I want to be known that I was through God. And the connection here is basically a way of acknowledging your connection to God, right? It's tefillin makes people see you're connected to God. The tcheles makes you think about God. So there's a better connection with this than with the other, at least than I'm able to do with the Afar and the Yefer. Yes.
The thing with the Yefer, we have to be thinking of also a little bit of Gan Eden, right? If we're talking about women doing things.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't have it thought out yet, but I wonder if there's something.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, interesting. Oh, well, actually, certainly it's true because the person got in and is about with pain and so on. And here the blessing is, right, V'niksav Razara. And Rashi actually quotes on that pasuk the Midrash, which says that it doesn't just mean that she conceives, but that she's able to conceive and to give birth without pain. So that's actually, it never occurred to me that that's actually like a reverse of the curse of Chava.
Right.
So you're right. Now that also is not, although Chazal read that as a type of a sexual sin. They read the Nachash as a seducer and so on.
Right.
So,
I wonder if there's also an aspect of like the fact that we're putting dust in the water, and like this is like the epitome of like what women like did to men. I don't know, early. Do you know what I mean?
No, how that dust in the water?
Because isn't Adam's curse after
you mean bezes apechat? Like kiafar tavel afar tashuv.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, although I don't think directly about it, but there is the whole thing. It is interesting. It is worth pointing out that prior to the parsha of Sotah, you already have the phenomenon of dust and water as a test by Maisa Ha'egel. Moshe grinds up the egel and he makes them drink it.
That's a total parallel.
Right. Right. But what that also shows you is exactly. Because because committing adultery, the Torah already describes, right, about V'zanu achareo heinei chara aretz. God is described as an El Kana, the husband who thinks his wife has committed adultery, is Vavar Lav Ruach Kina, and so on. But the fascinating thing there is that story, that parsha, occurs way before the mitzvah of Sotah, which shows that idea that, somehow, some type of a water, grinding up something in the water and drinking it as a test for fidelity, right, precedes the Torah's mitzvah already there prior to that. Okay.
Midrash shows also reflect that theological debate of a mitzvot lole and no miknu.
Possibly, although I see that more as a halachic discussion, but yes. Here it definitely does want a mitzvah that you're getting some hana from. That is correct. So did
you talk about like how you get the tefillin? I mean,
yeah, but you weren't here for that. We're moving on. Okay, next Mishnah. Eino kosev lo luach v'lo niyad. So now we get to the question of what constitutes sefer. You do not write on a luach, on like a tablet. Okay, Rashi says a wooden tablet, or on paper. Paper is basically made out of like a type of a fiber, out of tree, papyrus, etc. Rashi says, what do you call it, grass or whatever, but I assume he means a type of a papyrus. Anyway, some type of a fibrous material. That's not good. Well, a diphthera did cloth, not flea tree cloth. Ella al amigila. But on a classic parchment, it's actually interesting. It should have said, normally the contrast gets back to your point of Megillah. To diphthera is cloth. Cloth basically means, parchment, the classically treated parchment that you would use to write a Megillah, Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and so on. So it is interesting here that it contrasts diphthera to Megillah. Megillah is more like the constructed book, not just the piece of parchment. But you're not constructing a book here; it's just a single piece of parchment. Shene'amar basefer. Okay, and somehow that means only that. The eino kosev lo kumus. You cannot write, the ink cannot be something called kumus, which Rashi says is some type of a what do you call it, of a tree sap. Lo bekanketom.
Gum.
Okay, lo bekanketom, which also I don't know how they translate that.
So, that helps.
There you go. Which is also some type of an ink. The lo b'chol davar sheroshein. Nothing which leaves a mark, which means what? It means indelible mark, which means when you write on the parchment, does it get absorbed into the parchment? So even if you were to scrape it off, you would be left with the mark? Or is it basically a type essentially of a paint that sits on the surface of the parchment that doesn't get absorbed, so you can scrape it off and nothing is left, which is what our Sefer Torah written on, which is how you can make a scrape it off, right? Okay. Ela bidyo, it has to be our ink, which basically sits on the top but doesn't get absorbed into the parchment. Shenemar umacha, you have to erase, scrape it off. It has to be able to be erasable, which presumably means, like, of course, if you couldn't erase it at all, then you wouldn't be able to do the pasuk. But presumably, even if there was something you could scrape off, it has to be fully erased, being behind. The whole words have to flow into, as it were, into the water. Okay, so now there's a lot of big Tosasim here, not a lot of Gemara, so we'll get to the Daf quicker, and I'll tell you a little bit about what the Tosasim say. Amarava. Megillat Sotah sheksava b'layla psula. If you wrote it at night, it's
It sounds like you
invalid.
have to be done right on the spot.
My
Anyway,
time,
doesn't
what?
it? Doesn't sound like you have to do it on the spot.
Yeah, but yes, but we'll get to that. Okay, we're going to make a lot of things. We'll get to that. My time, asya Torah ksiv hacha v'asalah kohen eskol haTorah. You should do this entire instruction or teaching. Ksiv hasam al pi Torah sheyerucha v'al mishpat, based on the Torah that they teach you. This is by the Beit Din Hagadol when they're being challenged by the Zaken Mamre. You shall follow the instruction that they teach you. Megillat Sotah b'yom. The same way judgment takes place in the day, even the Megillah of Sotah takes place during the day. Judgment does not take place at night. I'm going to read a little bit more, and then I want to tell you a little bit what Tosfos says about each one of these. Kosel l'mafreya psula. Let's say you wrote it backwards, which means maybe the words appeared on the Megillah in order, but you started at the end and you wrote backwards. Okay, so you had your whole Megillah. Bottom of the line, you wrote the last word, then the second to last word. So maybe in the end it reads correctly, but the order that you wrote it backwards.
You do that to make certain that you have enough space.
Oh, maybe.
Sotah would do that. He'd write the last words at the end.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Dichsiv v'katav et halot ha'ela. So write them the way they're written. Write them in order. Ksava kodem shetikabel aleha shvu'ah. Let's say, now here's the part that skipped our Mishnah. The Torah says he makes her swear, she says, and then he writes it down. Our Mishnah completely skipped over him making her swear. And now this tells you that actually, if you did what the Mishnah said, essentially, if you wrote it before she swore, it's invalid. It has to follow the order of the pasuk. First, she has to take the oath, and then you write it down. Sava kodem shetikabel aleh shvu'ah psula, shenever v'yishbiya v'achar kach v'kasav. It has to be written after. Sava igeret psula. If you wrote it as a letter, it's invalid. Now, what does a letter mean? So Rashi says it means without sirtut. Sirtut is the scoring. Mostly at a Sefer Torah, you see that there are these indented lines.
Yeah, Megillah
scores, right? And they actually go. We usually write our words on top of the lines. Actually, it goes on. They actually write in the scoring. The words go below the line. Lines, right? Exactly. Anyway, if you wrote it without the scoring, that's how Rashi reads as a letter. It's invalid. But sefer machmana, it has to be like a normal sefer, and Rashi says it means like sefer kodesh or whatever, which are written with scoring. Okay, we'll read a little bit more on Yud Chet Amud Aleph, and then talk a little bit about what the Tosfos says. Kasval shnei dapim psula. If it's written on two separate pieces of parchment, you didn't have a big enough piece of parchment. You said, continued on side 2, or whatever. See page 2. Then it's invalid.
Oh, we can use the other side then?
No, I don't think so. No, because only one side works as a parchment. Sefer echad amar Rachmana v'lo shnayim v'shlosha svarim. Only one book. Okay. The cause of osachas, umachak osachas, psula. You write one word, you scrape it off. You write the next word, you scrape it off. So you're writing it in order, but you never have the whole thing present at one time.
You had a really small piece of parchment.
Oh, that's good. Maybe that's why. Okay, that's invalid. Somehow it has to be the whole Torah, the whole thing at once, and then scraped off. Now, what are all these? That was pretty easy. What are all these big Tosfos about? Okay, so the one Tosfos about, just to tell you, Lola Luach, Tosfos discusses, that in other places we actually say that other forms of books of writing surfaces are okay. Think about a get. The get says v'kasav, right? Sefer kritut, and we said yesterday, you could write it on any type of a surface. How come here we read bas sefer? So Tosfos tries to figure that out. One distinction Tosfos points out to is the word bas sefer in a book means that we're focusing on the physical object of the classic book. When by the get it says what is it? The kasav la sefer kritut. So it doesn't say bas sefer, but a sefer kritut, and therefore one of the classic drashot of the rabbis is sefiras dvar ba'alma. So meaning the word sefer there almost means like a story of divorce, as opposed to in a book. Okay, or even if you say a book of divorce, it more relates to what's being told about and not the physical object, the same way bas sefer.
If you're physical objects, you can't write a get on it. The Karen part, like you can't.
Okay, there are very small limitations because it has to be like talush or whatever, but you basically don't have the limit of the emphasis of like parchment. Because so one distinction is the word bet. Now, how about the next thing about 1 minute? Hold on, let me just take a look. Oh, so in the Yerushalmi, by the way, it has another interesting question about whether you can write on parchment from non-kosher animals, okay? And one of the reasons you can't write on parchment for non-kosher animals is because that, let's say the woman changes her mind and you're not going to erase the name, you want to leave God's name on a piece of parchment from a non-kosher animal, that's somehow seen as unseemly, okay? But that's one question. Another interesting is, before you erase God's name, does this piece of parchment have Kedushat Sefer on it? And one of the halachic nafkaminas is, if you touch it, does it cause impurity of the hands? That's a classic way of testing if somebody has a type of a Kedushat Sefer, right? You would have to do it, I don't know, you have to put it in Geniza. What would you do with it if the woman said no? Okay, so that's like another question that the Yerushalmi has. It says maybe it doesn't have Kedushat Sefer because if it's written for the purpose of being erased, it doesn't have that same, like, so anyway, that's one area of question. Okay, now the other issue, interestingly, about mishpat, that it has to be bayom. If you take a look at Tosfos, it is 1 to 4 lines down, because the question is, what's bayom? Dine nefashos, capital crimes, are always bayom. Okay, dine mamanis begin at the day but end at night. So let's say for a Sotah, what type of...
Or they just
No, I'm sorry, they're allowed to end at night. So by a Sotah, if we're only learning out that it's written in the day because it says mishpat, what if you, I don't know, started writing it in the day and ended writing it at night? Would it be like dine mamanis or dine nefashos? So anyway, Tosfos says 4 lines down in the wide lines near the end, like directly over the words dichsiv, he says, V'nirali the chodin Sotah bein gemar bein tchila pasu b'layla. Any aspect of Sotah, whether the beginning or the end of the process, is invalid at night. Tumia de dine nefashos, v'lo dine mamanis. The tchilas din b'yom of a gemar din afilu b'layla. So I think again the fact that Sotah is dine nefashot goes back to a theme we've been talking about, right? You see this as a, you in a way you are adjudicating, right, her, whether she's chayav misa or not, because if she's found guilty and the water does it, she's actually going to, it's not clear in the psukim that she'll die, but Chazal understand that she'll die, right? So again, framing it as a dinei nefashot, I thought was very interesting in terms of the themes that we've been dealing with. Okay, now another interesting point about Tosfos is, 1 minute, yes, 1 minute. About this idea that if you go out of order, because if he makes her, if he writes it before making her take the oath, that everything has to be exactly in the order.
If you shall be here of a kuspa.
Yeah, so Tosfos says, 1 minute. So Tosfos has a question why some places, like, it doesn't emphasize the order if the order is ma'akev. And if you take a look, the line starts with the word v'nira de lo chashev. It's like 4 lines before the Tosfos ksava begins, or maybe 3 lines. Beginning of the line is v'nir ed. Do people see that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So it says v'nira de lo chashev elahecha d'kshinun ala seder. I will say there's Sotah ain't a nishnas al haseder. As I wanted to point this out to you again, a point we've seen before. The order of Sotah mentioned in the Mishnayot is not necessarily the exact order that it has to be done, in the precise order, but the precise order of the psukim. Somewhat ironically, not the precise order of the Mishnayot. Right? Just consider it. Our Mishnah spoke about writing it before it spoke about having her take the oath. And we just said explicitly that if you wrote it before the oath, it's invalid. Okay? V'seder ha-parsha ikar. Aval seder ha-mishnah afilu l'mitzvah amalo. Okay? So it's very bizarre. The order of the Mishnah is not precise. And it's actually the wrong order. And according to what we just read, if you follow the order of the Mishnah and you wrote the Megillah before having her take the oath, the Megillah would be invalid. Okay?
You're saying that the order of the Mishnah is not determined by what we would say is the halachic requirements for...
No, not determined. He's just saying, right, he's just saying...
other principle that...
Yeah, exactly. The order of the Mishnah reflects maybe certain literary or other concerns, but it is not to be read halachically.
Exactly.
And I mean, the big evidence is that the Mishnah didn't mention her taking the oath, and we just said that if you wrote it before taking the oath, it's invalid. Now, this last Tosfos, this huge one, okay, which is about when do you need sirtut or not, right? If the idea is that you can't write it without the scoring, Tosfos has a problem. Like, why did you need a pasuk to tell you that? There's another Gemara in the beginning of Gittin that basically says it's forbidden to write even 3 words for scoring, without the lines. Even if you're not writing it as a sefer, you're just writing somebody a letter. So of course you need scoring. So it says yes, but let's just the fact that you're supposed to do it wouldn't have invalidated the Megillah. Let's say you had written it without the scoring. So we would have given you a slap because you were supposed to write it with scoring. But does that mean the Megillah is invalid, right? The Megillah Sotah? No, that you need a special pasuk to tell you, even as an object of a Megillah, absent the scoring, it's not good. So even if there's a general requirement to do it, the object is necessarily invalid. And then Tosfos goes and tries to figure out when do you need scoring, when you don't, because the Gemara makes it sound like you don't need it by tefillin. But he's very bothered if there's an idea that any pasuk you write needs to be doing something out. He develops an idea of two types of scoring. One is the frame around the whole section, which he says that would be suffice for this requirement of not writing even 3 words of a pasuk without it. And then there's the scoring of each line, and that's not required by tefillin, but it is required by mezuzah and so on. So anyway, he's a long discussion about what type of scoring is necessary. I'll end by just reading you one very interesting little line at the very end of Tosfos, and he says the following. He says like this. He says, Matzasi b'Tosfos Rabbeinu Yud Bet Aleph. I don't know who that is. Yitzi. It's like 3 lines before the Tosfos Ksava, like 6 lines from the bottom, near the beginning of the line. People see this. Matzati, 7 lines from the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Matzati b'Tosfos Rabbeinu. I don't know. I'll say Yitzchak ben Avram. Maseches Gittin. Shematim Rabbi Eliyahu Hater. Mashanu kosim b'chsavim below sirtut. We write in our correspondence. We quote psukim. Let's say you write at the top of a letter as a way, you just write it as a nice flowery language, but you're quoting a part of a pasuk. You don't have to worry that you're not writing it with scoring. We're not writing it as a pasuk. Right, to open in a nice poetic way. We're not directly saying the pasuk says. We're like echoing a pasuk, as it were. Or to use it as a flowery language. If you're writing it, and let's say you're writing a letter and you want to say, just like the pasuk says, and then you're going to quote the pasuk, then you can't write it without scoring. So that's the quote. And so it says, psukim below sirtut, maybe lushim pasuk. Then it says, I don't get it. All the commentaries we write, if we're writing a commentary on the Torah, we're writing a commentary on the Gemara. Like, if I actually quote psukim as part of my discussion, I'm telling you, I don't do scoring. How am I allowed to do that without the scoring? So it's an actual interesting question of like how we satisfy, that requirement of doing the scoring. And actually, unfortunately, Michael wasn't here because he raised the question about, is the opinion earlier that you have to quote the middle of the pasuk? A problem of pasuk to lo paske Moshe, you're not supposed to split a pasuk. So Rabbi Avad Yosef has asked a question about that, about are you allowed to? This isn't the same, but it's parallel to this question of quoting psukim. Do you have to do scoring? If we're having a conversation and I'm quoting a pasuk, and it's like Vanochi to do that because I didn't quote the whole pasuk. I maybe had to say, doesn't it say Vayom Avram Hashem Vanochi? Like when we quote psukim, we quote parts of psukim. And are you allowed also to say Shem Hashem if you're quoting only a partial pasuk or whatever? So Rabbi Yosef has all tshuva about this, and he says all you have to do is read the Gemara to see that the Gemara is quoting partial psukim with Shem Hashem, and it's not a problem. So basically, he says the idea of kol pasuk lo paske Moshe does not prohibit that. That more sort of speaks about you reading a pasuk in a type of a ritual context, which might have been similar to the case about might have been similar to the case about the Megillat Sotah. That was an actual ritual context. That might be the restriction that you can't do a partial pasuk. But in a type of a conversation, learning, and so on, you would not have that restriction. But Tosfos is still bothered. But where's the sirtut? And he sort of leaves it as a question. Yeah.
I always thought that much of the